Hi all, I would like to carry on our Sacrifices series and this time look at a Grandmaster who is not as, say, famous as Magnus Carlsen, but he was nevertheless one of the world's top Grandmasters, once in the top 10. His name, John Dennis Martin Nunn, or John Nunn, as he's most usually known as. John Nunn, born 1955 in London. He's a Grandmaster which actually awarded me the Lloyd's Junior Under-18 tournament in 1989, one of the best days of my chess life, when I was ECF 147 and I beat quite a few 190s and managed to win, the Lloyd's Bank Junior. I was given my award by John Nunn, but I was always full of admiration for his games, and he coached juniors, and actually one or two of the sacrifices we will see in this video, like against Korchnoi, he actually demonstrated to me and other juniors when I was a junior. So I'll talk about that as well later. So John Nunn is actually a three-time world champion in chess problem solving. So all those very, very difficult problems which often even very strong club players don't have a clue about, he can solve those more effectively than most other people in the world. He's also a prolific chess writer. There's books even this year. I think he's rediscovering Emanuel Lasker, demystifying some of Lasker's chess. There's a book there this year. Nunn's chess openings, many of us are familiar with. He's a really fantastic mathematician. So he's one of England's strongest chess players and was once in the world top 10. As a junior, now this is from Wiki, he showed a prodigious talent for the game, and in 1967, at 12 years of age, he won the British Under-14 Championship. At 14, he was the London Under-18 champion for the 1969-70 season. And less than a year later, at just 15, he proceeded to Oriel College in Oxford to study mathematics. At the time, he was Oxford's youngest undergraduate since Cardinal Wolsey in 1520. Oxford and Cambridge are the two major universities in England, the highest profile university. So this is an absolutely astounding academic achievement. Graduating in 1973, he went on to gain his doctorate in 1978 with a thesis on finite H spaces, not H files, H spaces, and remained at Oxford University as a mathematical lecturer until 1981, when he became a professional chess player. So this video will focus on 1978 to 82, so only 1 year of him as a pro. I'm hoping to do other videos later to see sacrifices later in his career. In 1975, he became the European Junior Champion. He gained the Grandmaster title in 1978 and was British Champion in 1979. He twice won individual gold medals at the Chess Olympiads. In 1989, he finished 6th in the inaugural World Cup, a series of tournaments in which the top 25 players in the world competed. His best performance in the World Championship cycle came in 1987, when he lost the playoff against Lajos Portish for a place in the Candidates Tournament. He won the prestigious Hurgevens Tournament, held annually at Weekend Z in 1982, 1990 and 1991. He achieved his highest ELO rating of 2630 in January 1995. 6 years later, in 1989, his rating of 2620 was high enough to elevate him into the world's top 10, where he shared 9th place. This was close to the peak of the English chess boom, and there were two English players above him on the list: Nigel Short, world number 3 at 2650, and Jonathan Spillman, world number 5 at 2640. Nunn is now retired from serious tournament play, has not played a FIDE Rec game since 2006. He's still been active in ECF Rapid Play, and of course, as we know on this channel, also on the Internet Chess Club. So Docky, which I played a few times, I played him on the Internet Chess Club, some 5-minute chess. So Wiki continues. I'll give you the link to the Wiki. It talks about his book authorship, which I've briefly mentioned. Okay, let's go on to look at his sacrifices. Let's start the scope of this video. So from 1978 to 82, the first example I'd like to show you, he was black against Leonid Shakhmovich, who's just played this move bishop c7. And I want to introduce this concept actually of a double weakness of the last move. I've been meaning to in the last few days. But this is actually, although you could say in one respect we talk about weaknesses for control, like it's not controlling say h4, but it's controlling some other squares. But also the way it's put on c7, it's actually technically a loose piece here. So you could say this is a double weakness of the last move. And in fact, the loose piece, putting a piece where it's loose, can sometimes be tactically exploited. And I think strong tacticians are always alert for this kind of double weakness of the last move. So a loose piece there, and we'll put on a Kibitzer here. So how would you exploit this this loose piece on c7? I'm giving you a bit of a clue there. What does John Nunn play here? So a meat and potato kind of tactic. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video starting from now. Okay, he just plays rook takes b5, because after knight takes, now there's queen c6, just the double attack on two loose pieces. Classic. Loose pieces, especially to double attacks, fall off. Cecil Purdy once wrote that every move you play, or the opponent's move, check for this, that they're not going to fall off to double attacks, forks, pins, or skewers, which are kind of reverse pins. So here's a double attack against the two. So he's won two pieces for the rook. The game continues a little bit. He's got a passed c pawn there. So the knight and bishop against the rook. He pushes his passed c pawn, protects the e6 of his king, centralizes the knight, establishes the knight in a strong place. Okay, a nuisance pin, but the pawn pushes. Now rook c7, challenging that rook on the 7th. Queen e5. The king drops back, and here after a3, instead of moving the knight back, the idea now bishop g5 hitting that rook. And here white resigns. So that was the first example. Simple loose piece case in 1978. Of course, the build-up to these positions, sometimes he's playing things like the Tarrasch. He's playing very dynamic, aggressive openings, actually, to create these tactical possibilities, or even the Benoni in some games. Now, so that was that one we've just seen. So let's go on to the next. Okay, so here, John Nunn is playing black against Lazo Vadaz. And white's now, black here plays, let's give the initial move. So John Nunn's playing black. It looks as though he's got some pieces around the king, yeah? He actually plays queen f6, which puts more pressure, it seems, on f2. But there's also another effect of this. And we see this after e takes d5. Black plays a very powerful move here. Can you guess if I give you 5 seconds here to pause the video? Okay, it's not just f2. The bishop and knight are actually good for knight e3, because f1's weak here. Ouch. So instead of a simple recapture, it wouldn't have been very good at all, the simple recapture, in any case. So here, if takes queen f1, checkmate. So he's just won the exchange there. So queen a4, the game continued after taking. He plays c takes now. And now this is also quite fascinating after queen e6. So the pressure is still there after queen e6 because of the battery now on e1. If this bishop moves, then black is threatening queen takes e1 in some lines. So we see bishop a5. Instead of the rook moving, a really powerful move, the engine loves this move. What would you play here if I give you 5 seconds? Okay, bishop c5. Yeah, there's back row issues. That would definitely be a weakness of the last move if bishop takes. You see that weakness of the last move? Because then we just play queen e1. It's not controlling the e1 square. So bishop c5 pointing at f2. We see queen c2. Bishop just drops back here, and we've got that nice pin as well. Knight takes. And in fact, now the obvious move would be to take on d1 and then maybe take on b6. Black's doing well there, but it finishes very nicely with another top engine choice move, really super accurate move here. What would you play here? 5 seconds. Okay, queen f5, trying to deflect the queen away from d1. And white now played rook takes, but John just played rook takes, so it's still hitting the queen. And white resigns here now, because also, you know, it's a double attack against that loose bishop here. So what does white do here? It's pretty bad. White resigned. Let's turn off this annoying Java updater there. Okay, so if, for example, queen e2, we just take here, and where's the knight going? Well, this is terrible. For example, queen takes a2. There's still major threats against white here, so it's more than just being the exchange down. It's just a total disaster. The best move here, apparently, because black is now threatening all sorts of things. The checks here on the back row. Apparently, the best move's here. So check. This really finishes off white. Really. Here, say rook d1. It's all over. Okay, let's go on to another example. So again, roughly chronological order, 1978 still. John Nunn is playing Edwin Bend, B-H-E-N-D, in Buenos Aires, 1978. It looks like Sveshnikov, the opening. F5 was played, and now against this, I just check theoretically. This is the move theoretically, f5. But there is an interesting move here theoretically, which was played by John. So this sacrifice is known. But let's have a look at the game, the violence of the game. So a takes, knight takes. Now black played rook b8. Another choice which I played myself as black against Eames, I think rook a4. That seems to be the main move here, but rook b8 was played. Let's see what happened. Check. Queen h5. It's a complex position. It's actually quite theoretical. So I'm just giving you a flavour of sometimes the aggression in openings, with sacrifices. So b4, f takes, c3, knight drops back, and now black's king is getting a bit in trouble here. After b6 now. King c6. This doesn't look good, but white was threatening, I think, just to reinforce things like this. So king c6, rook ab1. Now we see queen g5, queen e2. White is now threatening queen b5 check. So this piece sacrifice, which was elected in the opening, does carry a lot of danger, really, for black in practice. b7 now is crushing. This is like plus 12 from an engine perspective. Knight d3, queen takes e4, queen coming to that b5 square again, threatening queen b5. Rook takes, and here black resigns. Yeah, so a very, very violent opening example sacrifice, which John has used. Bishop takes b5 here. It's a theoretical position. Usually bishop d3 is played, or c3, but yeah, this clearly is a very dangerous move, maybe to consider as part of an attacking player's opening repertoire. In this position against Andrew Whiteley, it came from a French defence, a gambit of a pawn in the centre, so a very aggressive opening. Now black here might be okay in theory from an engine point of view. If bishop d7 is played, that might be a good idea. And it still seems difficult with that pin, for example, like this. Apparently this might be just about okay for black, but there's practical chances for white. Black actually played, though, queen a5, and this gives an opportunity to really open up things aggressively. Can you see what white plays here? I'll give you 5 seconds to pause the video now. Okay, b4, yeah, b4. After takes, rook ab1. The queen's not got too many squares. Now this is apparently knight takes d3 had to be played here to sacrifice the queen. That was actually black's best try to get the knight and the rook for the queen. But after this, it's a disaster. Check. And here, if bishop d7, this doesn't really help black, because bishop takes c5. Then we can take on d7. Then we can take on b7. And then this is not very nice for black at all after this. Multiple frets. So black played king d8, and now we see rook fc1, b6, and now in this position a really crushing move. Can you see what white plays? 5 seconds. Okay, rook b3, yeah, because this knight can't take, because then we would have queen c7 checkmate. So the queen is forced into a terrible location. If it goes to a5, then bishop d2, winning the queen. So actually the queen gave herself up here for a rook. Doesn't really help the situation. Knight takes b3. Now instead of the basic recapture, even stronger, queen c6 was played, threatening bishop takes b6 is a forced mate in 3 after taking then queen d6 after that. That's the threat here. We see rook b8 defending b6, but check here. Queen takes f7. And now another real bone crushing move. He said to us as junior to kick the boot in when you're up. So this is a move which really looks to kick the boot in. Although the engine suggests, okay, and then there's other moves as well. What would you play here? Okay, knight g5 was played. Yeah, bringing the knight in so it can come to the f7 square after the check. Black dare not take this because then there's a crossfire. So we see rook b7. Knight takes e6 check. Yeah, black's falling to pieces. Knight c5 check. And now e6, bringing that resource into the attack, also means now bishop f4 check is on the cards. So black resigned here. Not too soon, really. If g5, by the way, there's e7. Ouch. So this is back in 1978. So 1979 now, against another fellow British Grandmaster, which I'd like to do a sacrifice video on in the future, Mark Hebden. Mark Hebden here was playing on the black side of a Vienna game, so you can see the remnants of the Vienna game. Queen d7 was played here. Guess what white now plays? I think I have a bit of tea there. So if I give you 5 seconds here, what would you play as white? Okay. Bishop takes h7. It's an amazing concept. The engine actually really agrees with this move as the top move. It's +5. Anything else is like not very good actually. Bishop f5, bishop e6 equal the engine's suggestion, but bishop takes h7. So queen h4 is on the cards here. So black takes now. Now what does white play? It's a very violent game. White to play here. What would you play here as white? 5 seconds. Bishop f6, that's the essential follow-up. Bishop f6, so we're threatening this mate in 1. Now if g6, we just mate on h8, mate in 2, you know, check, queen h8. Black tries g5. Yeah, if rook g8, this doesn't help. We just have a mate in 3 here, like this. Ouch. So g5 was tried. But now queen takes g5. So black's point was to try and use this g file to try and rebound, backfire this on white. Tries now bishop takes g2 check. Queen takes g2. So he's still threatening this with queen g7. Rook g8. But now queen e4 check. And here black resigned. I think the major point after rook g6, it appears that queen h4 could be answerable by rook h6, and although white's better, it's not absolutely crushing. But in fact, in this position, the really crushing move is, if I give you 5 seconds, what's the really crushing move? To learn the art of attack here and what these sacrifices represent. They represent precision play after the initial sacrifice. So not queen h4, but rook f5 is the real bone crusher here. threatening this check, this utilising the pin indirectly. What does black do? What does black do indeed? Best move from the engine point of view is to take that, to give up the queen. If here, rook h5, threatening rook h8, black would take here, takes, but now, you know, we've got all sorts of things. We've even got rook g1, potentially, if we need to distract the bishop. No, but the faster mate is mating here. Or queen g2. So these are the two killer ideas. So black's fairly defenseless here. If queen c6, then the bishop's actually hanging. We can just take here, and we can just take the bishop. Yeah. So wow. So this position, it came from the Vienna game, but bishop takes h7, stripped away black's king safety. So pretty vicious. That was in the London tournament, LARA 1979, against Mark Hebden, who was playing black. Now Mark Hebden playing white in this next example. Sorry to pick on Mark. He was actually doing really well in this game. He was playing white. So John Nunn was playing black. He was doing really well, but white needs to play a very precise move here. Very precise move is needed in this position because black has a very, very serious threat. So white play, black has a very, very serious threat of simply taking here for queen d4, and he missed that. White just took this knight on b6, and black did play this rook takes f3. So if white had played here, instead of the normal looking queen takes b6, just rook c2, apparently this is okay for black. Sorry, okay for white. It's +2 actually. If white plays the cards right, then this would have been good. But yeah, queen takes b6. We have rook takes f3, and now the idea was rook c1 to defend d4 like this. So black to play here. What would you play here now with black? 5 seconds here to pause the video. It's a really crushing move, top engine move by miles, +18 after this move. What would you play? Okay, you really want to deflect the queen away from d4. Rook b3, a drag and drop tactic to get this lethal combination of queen and knight against the king here. Queen takes. I'm not sure there was anything better. This knight was pinned to the rook, etc. Queen takes d4, knight f2 check. And here Mark Hebden resigned. We have the classic stuff, don't we? Knight h3 check, double check. Now king f1, then queen f2. If king h1, then the classic queen g1, knight f2. So familiar smothered mate thing, but yeah, white had to play very, very carefully here. Okay. Now against Peter Large, who used to be winning all the quick plays on the weekends. I used to go to these George Goodwin quick plays, and Peter Large was like the grandmaster, even though he was an IM of the quick plays. He used to beat loads and loads of grandmasters in quick plays. An accountant by profession. I remember playing in friendly games with myself and Demis Sapis on the same side. Demis Sapis, who later became big in AI. Google bought his company a few months back for millions and millions of dollars. But we were playing Peter Large. He was a real genius in his own right, Peter Large. But John Nunn here was playing against Peter Large in the Chester Great British Championship, Great Britain Championship 1979. And John Nunn continues. It looks like a very nice attacking position from Sicilian, but how to proceed? I mean, it looks dangerous, but how does white actually proceed? And I thought this is a kind of meat and potato attacking position, which it's nice to see these John Nunn examples. What does white want to achieve strategically? He wants to break open this bishop. So this next move looks like an interesting move to try and make this bishop, you know, cut through that diagonal, just from an intuitive level, even though it might seem to lose a pawn, because it seems as though black hasn't even played bishop b7. It's still eyeing this, it's designed against this, you could say. But black takes on d4. Now we see rook takes d4, not bothering with bishop takes d4. On bishop takes d4, maybe b4, and then where is white's attacking position here? Queen c6, white's under attack in the centre. e5. Now look at this position. The bishop you know, black's king, although this diagonal is open, black's king seems fairly safe. There's pressure on e4, bishop b7, maybe to follow later at some point, maybe not now. But the way it was played with rook takes d4 is very interesting instead. Actually, what does it do? It stops b4. It stops this because this is undermining white's centre. Yeah, can we'll just show that? We just take that. Yeah, no problem taking that. So it's shielding against b4 and simply offering the f5 pawn. So e takes. So we got this bishop opened up. And now, yeah, I know you might not think this is absolutely amazing, but I'd like to test you guys, boys and girls. What would you play here with white? Now, it's kind of an intriguing move actually, to try and wrench open diagonals for the bishops and stuff and remove black's king safety. So white's play here, if I give you 5 seconds, what would you play with white? And the engine loves this move. Simple attacking move. Okay, rook f1. Just simply rook f1. Okay, a pawn's been lost, but so what? White's now is threatening to take that pawn simply. But is it just another opportunity to black to take off on e4 to make sure he's a pawn up? So black takes on e4. What's been happening here? Look at the two bishops compared to the other variation. Knight takes, f takes. Rook takes e4. Now actually that you can see that they've both potentially got beautiful diagonals pointing at the king. There's no defensive knight on f6. There's no defensive pawn on e5, if you remember the other variation. So up to bishop b7. A direct frontal assault with rook g4. Morozevich looking rook. Just needs a bit of coordination, surely, with bishop d4. Now, black can't easily play bishop f6, because then we just play rook takes f6. Black tried d5, and now we get this. Okay, it's blunted this one, sure, but then this dark square one comes alive, bishop d4. And although this is dead on this diagonal, it might not be dead on this diagonal. We see now black having to defend g7. So he plays f6, and now beautiful move, c3, opening up this diagonal for the bishop. Queen d7 might not have been the most accurate. It's difficult to defend these sort of positions though. Bishop c2, and white's clearly better now after bishop c2. There's multiple threats, including even rook takes g7 is even dangerous apparently in this position, if black didn't do anything about that. He plays g6. Now what does white play? 5 seconds. Bishop takes g6. Just wrenching open totally the king's safety. And now, yep, taking on f6. Ouch. This looks painful because it is painful. Rook g6, and here black resigned. He's forced with, it's like a mate in 2 actually. Yeah, if king here, then queen h5 checkmate. If here, then rook takes queen h5. So you see from the initial position, it didn't seem that bad for black in the initial position, but precision play, starting with rook takes d4 to avoid all this b4 stuff. Should black have considered e5? Maybe that's an engine choice to play e5, one of the top engine choices. It keeps that diagonal away from this dark square bishop, so this would have been better than from the game it seems. But the way what transpired here was just terrible for this bishop pair. I mean, terrible for black, beautiful for white. You see that bishop pair totally running riot on the diagonals now, even though it's blocked on that one. This one blocked on this one. This diagonal here. It's just meltdown of king safety, total meltdown. Okay, so against Peter Large. Now, this next example, John Nunn was playing black here, and you might recognise this position as that Nakamura type sacrifice that I've played against the Pert's defence. Again, in the Austrian attack, when you sacrifice the knight on c3, some of you might recognise it. And in engine view analysis, it was shown to be unsound. Now, this is played in 1979. Now, this whole attack for white is potentially unsound if black plays really accurately. And you need quite high depth, probably more than 16. I'm just going to... Because actually, when I've analysed this post-mortem, this kind of attack, which has worked out well for me as white, it seems that, you know, there's counter resources here. Maybe there's time for c takes b2. John Nunn played knight takes e5. Now this is a very, very important counter resource in this position. So one point is knight takes f7. We can play knight takes f7 and black's fine. Now another point is if f takes, then we take here, and if here, queen takes g5. So yes, this is trying to distract the bishop. And if white's best is this, then we can queen here. And it's funny variation, the queen takes e5, and black actually ends up being better. So this is all very accurate play from black. So knight takes e5, yes, unfortunately for white. So queen h5 was played, and now h6. The game continued. F takes e. H takes, and apparently this is equal. Apparently white can have equality with best play. Check. I'm not entirely sure now, because the engine did say 0.00 and now says it's better for black. No, maybe it's a case of horizon depth, because this was the top choice now of the engine again, this queen h8 to get the queen back. But in this position, after knight c6, apparently black's got the edge. Very sharp position. Rook takes d6, knight takes e5, bishop e2, and now rook d7 was chosen. So John Nunn survived the attack, actually, to reach equality. So this is on move 21, but manages to lose the game 2 moves later somehow. Check here, just gets the rooks off basically. In this position, white plays a totally disastrous move after all of that, which looks entirely natural. That's this sadistic aspect of chess. It looks kind of natural to take on g5, but there's an issue with this c takes here, and maybe other things. So white played bishop takes g5, which apparently throws away the game totally, because it's not c takes b2 that was played. C takes b2, rook b1, and white's doing fine apparently. White's apparently fine here. But no, the problem with this position is this rook h8. Ouch. Yeah, the pawn's doing a good job of stopping the king. So this rook h1 is a major issue now. Indeed to face. White is not designed for that rook h8. After all that, yeah. So maybe that's why the engine was saying it was about equal. With best play here, b takes c3. You know, maybe that's like a different story. Because rook h8 here, we can play this. We've got d2 for the king. You know, any check, there's d2. So yeah, I wanted to show you this game because it was that Austrian attack that I played a few times on the ICC with the knight sack on c3. So John Nunn on the black side of it, but yeah, managed to survive and 2 moves later wins after equality was reached. Quite amusing. Okay, so now John Nunn was playing black here against Klaus Victor Darger in the LFM Hall tournament 1979. It's the EU Championship team. Maybe a team tournament, I think. CH team tournament. Bishop b2 was played by white. What to play with black here? What would you play with black? 5 seconds? It doesn't actually win or anything. I think it just keeps quality apparently. Okay, bishop a3, undermining the c3 knight. And white perhaps shouldn't have played bishop takes. Maybe there's a slightly better move in queen c2. But white plays bishop takes. After knight takes e2, bishop g4. We got this nasty pin. Actually, knight d4 is threatened here, using that pin as well. So white protects that d4 square. But now d4, and black's in the driving seat now. d3, he's got that dangerous pass pawn. It's damaging the pawn structure over there. Knight e5, threatening knight takes f3, forking king and queen. White takes, rook takes, but black is better here. There's all sorts of nasty ideas against the king here. Queen d7. Now with an idea of rook h5. Rook c8 with an idea of rook c2. You might wonder there, hold on a sec, you might wonder about rook c1, why wasn't that played? Here we can play this with black, we're still getting to that, still dangerous. So white plays this, and we see rook d5. Still with the idea of rook c2 now. e4, check, rook d4, now this rook c1, that's taken, h6, avoiding any back row mate issues. Yeah, a bit of a game, but that d pawn asset came out of it, and now it's pushed d2, queen d7, looking at h3, the damaged pawn structure doesn't help white's king safety. Rook d6, yeah, switching to g6 looks really dangerous, potentially. Now, okay, queen e3. Now we see queen b5. And you might think, what is going on here? Well, it's this, I think it's this rook g6 business. If rook takes d2, then rook g6 is a mate in 6 after here, queen f1. That will be mating white, basically. So, f4 was played. But in this position, a really crushing move now, which is +6 or more, is played in this position. A really beautiful tactical move in a way. Can you spot it? If I give you 5 seconds here, black to play. Okay, it forces a kind of weakness to the last move in terms of a loose piece. The queen has to go, it seems. Well, it can take on a7, but if it went e2 actually in the game, and then white resigned. White resigned because of the check. And if king f1, we just play rook g1 check. So we win that queen. And you might wonder, well, hold on a sec. What about this queen takes a7? In this position, there's a really crushing move for black, which is a mate in 10, which is queen h5. We use that f3 square now. Also looking at the rook. So say, yeah, it's hopeless here. What does white do? We'll try and do nothing. It's completely hopeless. So yeah, so this rook d3 was absolutely end of game. After here, white resigned with the move, I think. Okay. Now in Baden-Baden, 1980, for our next example, Franz Holz was playing John Nunn in 1980, and John Nunn just played this move. In this position, it looks as though d6 attacked. A very interesting move was played here. What would you play? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, you might want to protect the pawn. That seems reasonable, actually. That's a reasonable and good move. But another very interesting move was played, king h8, offering d6. And d6 shouldn't be taken here. Apparently white should play queen h3. But white took this. Now we see very powerful forcing moves, bishop e5. So the queen now takes on a6. And now the very powerful forcing move, rook b6. Loose piece alert. Tacticians look for loose pieces. That loose bishop. Ouch. So black is winning material. Bishop takes g5, queen takes, yep, just lost that bishop. Loose pieces tend to drop off. I think that might even be a John Nunn quotation. Loose pieces tend to drop off, or something to that effect. Rook h6. I'll try and find some quotations actually to layer this video with later. So rook h6, yes, he's just won a piece. Bishop takes g3. He crashes through here with a forced mate in 3 now off the check. It doesn't matter what white does. It delays it with this check, and it'll be mate with queen e1. So yeah, the dangerous tacticians do love these loose pieces. There's a loose piece basically here, which means this is absolutely wonderful to gain access to it. Getting rid of the shield, which is actually shielding that loose piece in effect on that 6th rank, so offering to give that pawn up, because now we've always got these rook b6 ideas. I think rook b6 immediately, actually, funny enough, isn't such a big deal here, because there's always queen g5. You know, it's just the way it was played is really, really crushing, getting the queen out of the picture with a double attack there. I think this might be Walter Brown against John Nunn. It was played in London Tournament 1980. So if it's Walter Brown, it's a Grandmaster opponent. John Nunn, he's played King's Indian, looks like King's Indian, and it looks like a 4 pawns attack. I think it came actually from a 4 pawns attack when I was researching these examples. So rook fe8, and white gains more space, but is creating weaknesses in the process. You know, there's a vacuum of weaknesses here being created. Knight d7. So black has got good piece play, but you might be curious about this. Isn't c4 about the drop off? And this is it. Knight a5, queen a5. So he's actually sacking c4. Queen takes c4, so that's the first kind of mini sacrifice. But the one I really am interested to show you is this, what comes up next after b5. There's a loose piece here, which white counters this fork with queen c7. We see now check here, and now if rook f2, what does black play in rook f2? Black could just take on f4 and be better here, because the rook is looked at here. That piece is loose. If queen takes, we take on c1. We don't bother with the knight on a4. So white plays king g3. Now here, what does black play? If I give you 5 seconds here to pause the video. Okay, top move, engine perspective, knight e5. So there's an idea of knight d3 coming to d3, and there's another idea of this diagonal being vicious. So the knight's kind of immune. If if it takes, then it's a forced mate in 3 actually, like this. Check, queen g3, checkmate. That vacuum has really been exploited there. So white plays rook cd1. We have queen b4, and black is now threatening just to take her and take the knight. Knight c3, rook ac8, queen takes a7. Yeah, another roaming queen winning material. Doesn't bode well, does it? Because it's away from the king here. Queen takes b2 now is played, so we've got a loose knight again. That moves. Now knight takes f3. King takes. And now, beautiful move here. Black to play here. What would you play in this position? Okay, rook takes e4, bringing the king out to play. Magnificent position. Look at that bishop as well. Look at that knight. If king takes here, this wasn't played, then it's a forced mate in 2 with check. And rook e8, checkmate. So that's not advisable. So rook f2 was played. Queen b4. With rook takes f4 now on the cards. And now here, bishop d4, nice double attack. And white resigned here. He's having to give up the exchange basically. So the exchange out of miserable position. Black's got still nasty threats like check now on the cards. Rook e8 to safeguard the rook and bring that into the attack. So white kind of resigned then after bishop d4. But yeah, I thought what a wonderful King's Engine, you know, against the 4 pawns attack vacuum of squares. This idea of losing c4 first, it's just very, very dynamic play. Very dynamic play from black here to think about this tactically, what's going on, even with the loose piece on d7, how that's not major problem after knight e5 in this line, knight e5. Really fantastic stuff. It was really dangerous. If rook c2, there was queen d3. Looking at f1, it's just white was in big trouble here. Any time that happens, well, there's queen takes f1. If the rook moves, then knight takes f3. Yeah, white's pieces are just hanging more than black's. Queen takes e4. Yeah, black would still be much better in this variation. Any knight retreat, queen takes c2. So the knight's kind of lost here in this line as well. So yeah, very, very dangerous position that white was put in. After this humble looking move, rook e8, just offering c4, setting all that off. Fantastic dynamic treatment of positions, really. Now, here, against Kevin Wicker in 1980, John Nunn was black. Queen e2 was played here. And what does black play? A really crushing move. Note there's a loose piece on c1. So black to play. 5 seconds. Knight takes e4. So white can't play knight takes because we just use that loose piece, we just take that. So white plays f takes, and then we have bishop g4. The queen has to protect d2, so f2 protecting d2. But now again this loose piece is used. Rook takes e4 check. Ouch! So can't take that. King f1. But now rook f4. Pinning the queen. Knight f3. Now what does black play? Crushing. Master of disaster. Rook takes f3. Ouch. After taking here, the loose piece bishop on c4 to boot. White resigns here. Several pawns down. King safety compromised. What a crush from that original position, that start position. Knight takes e4. Wow. This next example, John Nunn was 2-5-1-5 at the time of this game, playing against Florent Georgiou, and he was actually playing with the white pieces here. We see black playing in this position, so Florent Georgiou 2-6-0-5 plays g6. White now sets off proceedings. You might consider holding the set, you might consider queen takes c4. The problem with this, it runs into e5, which is quite dangerous in this position because of ideas of rook f6 if the f file opens. So, you know, black was trying to play safe with g6, but we have e5 anyway. e5 anyway. And if d takes now, let's have a look at an example. We have bishop g5 here, hitting the queen and looking at f6. If the queen moves, we can get rid of this pin with knight a4. I know this is very technical, but we can do this. Whatever black does is going to be worse here. If here, bishop takes f6, just losing that piece. So, yeah, bishop f6 is on the way. So, okay, so basically that was trying to be ignored with knight h5, trying to keep things calm. Just maybe trying to use the light squares. But we have e takes, bishop takes, and now things get really aggressive here. What does white play here? How would you try and open up the lines against the king here? 5 seconds, white to play. Okay, f5, yeah, trying to pierce through this diagonal. Black tried to keep things calm again with knight e5, just trying to ignore the stuff and trying to use the squares that have been created. And if he did take here, I mean, this is probably the best move. If he did take here, then knight takes. This could be really nasty. And we just take here. You know, this is nasty. This position, we've got all sorts of things going on. So yeah, Black's playing very sensibly looking, but after f takes, now we have knight e4, and White would like that dark square bishop. Knight takes c4 was played. Maybe that's not the best, but it's a difficult position. It might be the best, one of the best anyway. So knight takes d6, bishop h6, and we have this kind of mating net now on the cards, this theoretical mating net to bear in mind. E5, we have knight f5, still playing resources at Black's king side. Queen d5, threatening. Mate, this is attended to, rook f2. Queen c5. Now simple and strong move, bishop d1, just looking at that knight to take off that knight, asking it. Can't go back that easily because these guys are on g7. Bishop c8. Now b4, putting the queen in an awkward spot where there's that nasty pin immobilizing the knight really if the queen takes. The queen did take, because where else is the queen going in this position? There's that nasty move knight e7, for example. If queen c6, knight e7 check, and if rook takes, then rook f8. So we'll be winning the queen now. So the queen took on b4, but we have this check anyway. So even though the queen is guarding e7, this idea on f8 is working. You know, takes. We just take the queen here because we've got rook f8 to follow. Checkmate. So the king goes to h8 here, and now White just doubles for this rook f1 to be reintroduced. Bishop e6, protecting f8 even more. Bishop takes h5, stripping away Black's king safety again. Now if g takes, then we just play queen f6, checkmate. So queen takes e7 was played. Now what does White do here? 5 seconds. Okay, king safety plus loose piece involved. Rook f8 leaves the queen loose in lines. If rook takes, we will just take the queen here. So Black gives up the queen, takes, and yeah, it's not possible for Black to hold on this position too long. Queen e7, double attacks, 2 pieces. Rook f4, and it looks as though Black might be faintly threatening something like knight e3 with rook f1, very, very cheeky. Here g3 was played, stopping any nonsense. If queen takes e6, actually knight e3 is not possible because of queen takes e5. Actually, what is Black actually doing here? Okay, more to the point, pardon me, is just g takes h5. Apparently this is only +1 for White, believe it or not. Maybe it's a little bit on the fortressy side, but maybe it can be broken down. But John Nunn, he played here, instead of that queen takes e6, he plays g3. So instead of being +1, it's like nearly +10 after this. The key point is, I think one point is, if rook d4 here, we play queen f8. And then queen f6, mate. So the rook, if it has to go on the f file, then I think now the point is that we're treble attacking everything. So this is pretty diabolical. We can just take this one. Yeah, so that's pretty nasty. Where does the rook actually go? Yeah, so that's why g3 does seem absolutely final nail in the coffin there, rather than simply taking on e6. He doesn't let the foot off the pedal in these combinations. You'll note that even when he's won the queen, etc., he doesn't take the foot off the pedal. trying to still play accurate moves all the time. Now this game was shown to me in other juniors, I remember, against Victor Korchnoi. John was going on about a5 early in the game, being a strategic blunder because it allowed knight b5, which couldn't be repulsed with c6 because of d6. I remember this teaching session vividly because I came up with a move which, when he asked for guess the move later, so it seems there's an issue with f5. The queen's on f5. This knight looks a bit weird. It looks as though black's pieces are anti-positional, and Korchnoi's got wonderful trump cards: control of d5, pressure on the d file, potential c5 break. Potentially, white is going to play also f4. Maybe even use this diagonal later. John Nunn played move knight f6. Now, from an engine point of view, the engine actually likes this. Stockfish actually likes this for white a little bit to play Korchnoi's move, but you know, if you're not a computer, to play computer moves is sometimes risky because computer moves, they're often on the basis of perfect moves from each side. It doesn't matter for how many moves in a row. So maybe Korchnoi shouldn't have taken this pawn. It's in the offering, but he does. He had lots of positional trump cards potentially. I mean, if we look at this, one thing it is designed for though, f4, I think we can play knight g4, so it's not so easy to play f4. Possibly rook e1. Korchnoi has a very good track record against the king's engine defense in general. This came from a king's engine. This looks like an advantage for white, but white needs to tread carefully and not give black too much dynamism. But Korchnoi did seem to trigger off some dynamism unexpectedly with this. A really unexpected move, which the engine loves in this position to give black apparently an advantage, believe it or not. What would you play here? Incredible move. Incredible looking move. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. So John Nunn was 25.80 at the time of this game. This is Johannesburg 1981. Korchnoi was 2695. So I think well within the top 10 at the time in the world, 1981. But he's playing against the master of disaster. John Nunn plays knight g4. Knight g4. You might think, what? Okay, it's attacking the queen, but isn't the knight hanging there? What else though for black? What else in this position does black play? The next choice from an engine point of view is c6. White can play this. Knight d4, double attack the queen. This position, bishop takes d4 apparently. I know this is crazy stuff, but winning the queen here is almost like a positional queen sacrifice for white, because c5 and bishop c4 coming up, and white's king is under great scrutiny. This could have been a brilliancy for white if black's not careful in this sort of position with bishop c4 coming up. You can see that white's pieces all over black's king here, but it's a bit murky actually. No, the engine shift is murky, so maybe that c6 is also tactically interesting as well, with this idea of knight d4 actually. I know it's a crazy position after this queen takes f5, but here knight takes f3. This is better for white. This is all getting a bit crazy. But yeah, queen g4 apparently is even better from an engine point of view. Where does the queen go? If the queen... Let's put the queen here. Then rook takes f3. Thanks very much. So, okay. If queen d5, then knight takes f2 and c6. And here... not taking the knight. No, that's not the idea here, because queen takes d7. Black can actually play instead rook f7, and this is good, believe it or not, for black. This position here is difficult for white to play. Where's the knight going? this knight's controlling c7. If it goes there, then check, queen takes b2 check. White's got a lot of loose pieces, it seems. Bishop f8 picks up a3 potentially. Okay, yeah, I know it's a mega complex position and game. Okay, so that's so queen takes g4. So on queen c2, rook takes f3. On queen d5, we've just said knight takes f2 because of this idea of c6, and later queen b6. I know, very, very tactical. So cautionary plays queen takes g4. Fine. John Nunn continues knight g5 now. So he's on this f3. He's attacking the queen again. Queen h5. And yeah, this had to be calculated. What is going on here? Well, we've seen from a previous example John Nunn's skill at precise calculation, especially involving kicking the queen around accurately, like a football game where you know exactly where the ball's going to be, and then after that you know where it's going to be, and after that. And here the queen's on h5. But in this position, black to play has a strong move. He has a very, very strong move available. Can you see? Bishop e8. Now if queen g4, we would play h5, and white would have to give up the queen, because here knight takes f3 wins the queen. Hold on a sec, didn't we have that immediately? Not really. The bishop was on d7 here. This had to be totally calculated. Yeah, so knight g5, bishop e8, and then we use that h5 resource on queen g4. But cautionary plays queen takes g5. So he's already won one knight, and he's winning another. And now after knight c7, he's also dented black's pawn structure even more. And black has to be careful here. Apparently this should be okay for black with maybe queen f5. Now if the rook moves, for example, then this is really quite troublesome. White has got great compensation for the queen, winning the exchange now, and it could be big trouble ahead. Very good prospect still for white, because white controls that d5 square. For example, takes here f4, and we've got things like knight d5. It looks like a positional queen sacrifice, with white's pieces all having really fantastic squares. Maybe bishop d4 later and that sort of thing. And this is where John Nunn, he emphasised about kicking the boot in to us juniors at the time. So kicking the boot in here, though, this is a really murky tactical position where white's got this grip on d5. What do you play here? What would you play? The engine's got no clue about this move, by the way. If I give you 5 seconds here, what would you play as John Nunn? Okay, he plays rook takes f3. He really doesn't mind this rook sack because he wants to get the king out to play. That's the key thing. Get your opponent's king out to play. Get your opponent's king social with the pieces from a fundamental perspective. So forget the rook. Yeah, okay, you've just given up 2 knights and now a rook. But now, yes. And here is where all the juniors were tested. I did come up with the move. I didn't know exactly why. And when reviewing this yesterday, I got a bit more idea of why this might actually be good. I mean, you can guess the move and not know really why. I think I have more idea why now. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, can you find the right move and some idea why? Okay, rook takes f2. Ooh. Rook takes f2 was played, so it brings the king out. If the knight tries to move, then rook takes b2, and we're loosening all of white's position, and we've got stuff coming in at white's king. So the king comes out to play a little bit. White is positionally threatening things like knight d5, yeah, where there'll be a big grip on the position. So things are designed really against this. We see this check first, and black ideally wants to get this bishop working with the dark square pieces on this diagonal. I think that's a key point here. He wants to make sure white's not going to use the d5 square. So his move here is bishop takes c3. So he's denting white's control of d5 immediately. And if white plays b takes, then we play bishop c6 check. And with bishop and queen here, it's really quite crushing, funny enough. You know, if here, then that's a mate in 1. If rook d5, then bishop takes, and then actually this position is nice. The white's pieces are scattered and prone to being lost to queen c2 check here, losing the rook. So yeah, the pieces are not very good here. White's losing further material. So basically, yeah, bishop takes c3. White cautionary tries knight c7. He still wants a knight on d5. So much better than bishop c6 check now, because there's knight d5. Much better continuation here. There's only +1 to black. We want this beautiful coordination of the light square and the dark square pieces. I include the queen as a dark square piece. So bishop g6 was played, trying to get onto this diagonal without knight d5 in the way. So it's not in the way there. Check. King comes out there. Bishop takes b2. It's really dangerous position for white. Rook ab1. Queen f2. Threatening this check with g4 and check and nasties to follow. We see rook takes b2 being played here. Distracting from that. Yeah, black takes time now to take that rook. If Cautionary had done something else, well, if he plays check, then just king f7, and black's threats persist like queen f3 and stuff. So a very difficult position. Rook takes b2 was played. Queen takes b2. Knight f4. Check. Yes, this is pretty bad news. If king h4, queen f6 is mating. Here, h6. I remember John Nunn having a massive printout of analysis for this game as well. Gigantic printouts of analysis. It really impressed me at the time as a junior. This fantastic analysis was done by him on these games. So g4 was played here, and now final move of the game, queen f2, and here Cautionary resigned. Yes, black is threatening all sorts like this check to win the rook. If we move the rook here, so we take there, then it's a mate in 2 check and mates there. Yeah, you know, if we what else? Poor Cautionary, what does he do? He just loses the rook here, if nothing else. He loses the knight first, then he loses the rook. Okay, so yeah, it seems like chaos on the board was created. Shirow's fire on the board, you could say. But yeah, absolute chaos off the knight f6 from a positionally worse position. By his own admission at the time, you know, he made some strategic mistakes, but the tactical chaos for just giving up the f-pawn seems to defy gravity in this game. I thought at the time. That's why he showed it, probably. It defies the logic of what looked like a pleasant enough position for white, controlling key squares intuitively. It met with harsh, tactical, brutal, absolutely brutal forcing moves, like controlling the queen as though it was a football, very, very precisely targeted in these lines. And then, you know, even just carrying on, bringing the king out to play, and then making sure the light and dark square pieces perfectly coordinating without white ever having knight d5 here, extinguishing knight d5, bypassing it the second time to get on the diagonal with via e4, not via c6. I mean, it's just an absolutely tactical masterpiece in defiance of Korchnoi positional grip. It really is. I was just really impressed at the time. Fantastic tactical game against Korchnoi. He won both games, I think, against Korchnoi. It might have been in this same tournament, Johannesburg, 1981. So Korchnoi wasn't best pleased, I imagine. Wasn't best pleased. So, moving on. Okay, Harry M. Herm against John Nunn in Helsinki 1981 seems to have a kind of a vicious attack against the King's Indian, and he sacrificed the d4 pawn earlier, so White still got, it seems, some attacking initiative, but it's check now. The King goes to b1, and Black actually removes all the issues of the position tactically here for his own king first. What does Black play here? I'll give you 5 seconds. White seems to, be potentially carrying on the attack with either h5 or rook f1. So there'll be some pressure on John. He can't really move the rook without g6 falling apart here, can he? Well, that might be a good move actually, but what he played was even more spectacular. He played bishop takes f5 because White's centre's falling apart. He's got loads of pawns for the piece, and also there's a c1 issue potentially if the bishop wasn't once we get rook c8 in. So after takes, Black to play. What would you play here? Okay, rook h5, yes, kind of skewing the bishop and the centre pawn. Okay, after rook f5, it looks as though, hold on, isn't this a slight snag? That the bishop's not going back. If the bishop had just humbly gone back here, then we just munched the centre. We've got loads and loads of pawns for the piece. Black's actually +4 from an engine point of view. Black actually is rook and knight, sorry, rook against knight bishop, pardon me, with loads of pawns to boot. Extra 4 pawns, an army of pawns there. So that's not really acceptable. So we see rook f1, and John Nunn continues with, we can talk about a weakness of the last move here. It's controlling that square. How can we force a weakness of the last move? Yeah, we can take it off the board. Rook takes, so we can use the c8 square. Ouch. Knight c3 was played. Black just took this. He's got loads of pawns extra. h5, c takes b2. Yes, Black's attack is slightly quicker. 2 mate threats. Takes. It looks as though, is this a bit dangerous? Needed to be calculated. Check, king f8. White resigned here. The checks will run out, actually, unfortunately for White. If check, check, here check, we can just run over here. Checks run out. Yeah. Okay, yeah, a bit of tactical ingenuity, a little bit in defence there before the attack. Okay, John Nunn here against Gareth Anthony in Bristol 1981. John Nunn was playing White, so it's a weird sort of Sicilian variation. And Queen a5 was played, so White to play here. Possibly not the soundest move actually, but from a practical perspective creates huge difficulties for the opponent. The engine move is actually bishop c4. I'll rule that out for you. So White didn't play that. What does White play? 5 seconds here. Yeah, we can sacrifice the rook instead. A takes. Queen's out of the picture for a bit. Or is it got influence? That's the key thing. Has it got some influence? Queen d6. To be honest, the engine flicks between being +3 for Black to being slightly better for Black now, to being just less than half a pawn for Black. So the practical difficulties are marrying theoretical difficulties finally at depth 19, where knight takes e4 is given as the best move. So trying to use the influence of the queen, try and distract this knight, protecting that one. And in fact, John Nunn accepts this queen's influence with knight takes e4. We see check. Yes, it's being a bit of a nuisance. Queen takes b2. Again, being a bit of a nuisance now on this pawn. We see b5 being played. Knight b4. And now this position is given us equal, believe it or not, even though the queen and knight seems to be coordinating against John Nunn's king. Maybe it's a bit of a messy game, to be honest. It's not one of the more theoretically correct games. Apparently, maybe a bit better than knight b4 is knight a5. With an idea later of maybe b6 or f5 or knight b3. But yeah, knight b4 was played. And we have this bishop c5. So letting c2 go, though, looks dangerous. So white's king is being kicked around a bit. Check. 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 And theoretically, John should have played king e2 here, apparently. Nope. 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 On further depth, what he's played is fine as well, for at least keeping a draw in hand. And keeping winning chances. And sorry, I do want to emphasise that his latest book on Lasker says some of the same things about Lasker's games, where some people, annotators, thought Lasker was playing unsoundly or was lucky. In fact, often Lasker was retaining, acknowledging that he could have drawn, but kept some winning chances as well. And this is a case where king e2 fine if white wants a draw, but actually there's a more ambitious move here, which seems to offer a bit more danger though, which is king g4. Yes, is the king coming out to play? But what is black throwing at the king? Well, black throws f5 to try and get the rook in, but the rook actually can't use f8. We've got that battery. So what is this about? Or is it the queen coming to f7? That's the more significant thing. So king takes. Yes, it looks scary, but now white is actually better here, almost. If the engine made up its mind one day, I need a faster CPU for this sort of position. Okay, what is going on? If king h5 had been played, that would be disaster. Check. And apparently in this position, f takes e4, and black is fantastically like +8. But no, king takes f5 was played. This makes all the difference. Because now if... Well, let's see the game continuation. Check. King takes e5. I know, it's nuts. The whole game, total nuts. Probably worse than the Cautionary game. This king walk to e5. But note positioning. Look, black's playing without these two pieces, and this one's not in the game yet. And there's no killer checks, it seems. Black is actually losing this, it seems now. Technically, the engine's pretty clear on its verdict. Black's losing this. Knight c2. Bishop c4. Check. Check. King goes to f3. b6. Now it's white's turn to start checking. Check. g3. Kicking the queen. Check here. Bishop e7. Check. Taking the rook with check. Check. Yes, quite a lot of checks in this game. The final move. Can you guess? Knight d6. Yes, the final killer check implied is knight f7. Checkmate. And here on move 30, black resigned. What a crazy ride that was of a game. John Nunn against Gareth Anthony. Positionally, yeah, this move actually from the engine perspective looks as though it controls the light squares quite well. White could be in a slightly better shape, but this was a lot more fun, you've got to admit. Just a takes and allowing the king to be kicked around a bit. Oh dear, king coming to g4, then taking a ride to e5. Black's where did black blunder, you might ask? It was already apparently bad here after king g4. Knight d5 has been mentioned here after taking queen takes g7. Apparently this is a tiny bit better for white, at least at depth, certain depth anyway, 15, 16. It's supposed to be better for white in this position. It looks as though black's pieces are pretty stuck. But yeah, it looks, on the other hand, you know, this is a little bit scary to indulge in this sort of position. But the way it worked out was beautiful. Black didn't play that knight d5, maybe. That was fortunate. Instead f5. Yeah, tactical craziness. This game seems to be being played by Telex. I'm not entirely sure. 1981. This next example. John Nunn was playing against Yehuda Grunfeld. But Telex, 1981. So black played knight c5. Fairly standard looking sacrifice was played here. If I give you 5 seconds. Yeah, the knight's that weakness of the last move principle was protecting f6, so rook takes f6. Want to win a pawn for the exchange. But concretely, is there what's going on here? Well, bishop e3 now. Concretely, is going to try and play rook f1 now to extinguish the defences. It looks good for a punt. Knight takes d3, c takes. White is clearly better, even from an engine view now. With a simple idea of maybe even just knight d5, just to give the knight a peg on e6 if that's taken. Queen d7, knight d5 anyway, just giving that knight an e6 square supported. So knight e6 seems very, very useful. As well as other things though, bishop d4 is also dangerous, even more dangerous in fact, as well as knight e6. So queen f5. But now of course bishop d4 doesn't do well because queen takes g5. So knight e6 is used here. Taken. Takes. Queen takes e6, but we got this f file, menacing f file. The funny thing, if it's used here, it's not so good. If rook f1 immediately, then king e8. And apparently this could actually be okay for black. Look at this. So yeah, precision needed. Bishop h6, make sure the king's not moving anywhere. So the point in here, well, black resigned. The point is that after bishop takes, we use the weakness of the last move. It's not controlling h8, is it? So we're not taking on h6, that's nothing. We use the h8 square, and then we use the f file. And that wins the queen. Black could put the thing in, but he's losing his queen, and then he loses the rook after. Oh, well, she loses the rook, sorry. I'm not sure of the gender of the opponent. But yeah, it looks like a typical initial sacrifice. Bit of tea now. But impressive, smooth play after knight d5, just taking things easy for a bit there with knight d5. What if black didn't play queen f5? Again, this knight e6 is just handy even to g4 apparently. If king 8, we just take the bishop. What is black actually doing here? Black's pretty stuck. Yeah, this is a big problem. And if we rewind further, if the rook had moved, I don't know, to f7, this is no good. Apparently, well, we can just take here on f7, or even we could play knight b6, take time to win the exchange like that, or win both rooks, or just win this one first. It's a pretty nasty position after that initial exchange sack. It looks like worth a punt anyway, just from an intuitive point of view, just to win the h7 pawn. Now this next example, this was against Yasser Serwan. Someone just played in this position king e7. Looks as though it came from a French defence. Might have come from a French defence. Now, yeah, king h1 was calmly played here, and Yasser Serwan's in a really bad state here. This is actually a really actually, I think it was a Caro-Kann position this came from earlier. White's threat actually includes bishop takes d5 here if black's not careful, as well as things like knight f5, just to demonstrate these two possibilities. Say king d8 was played, then that changes the picture. There's other ideas. Let's just say this, then just to show this, we've got e6 and that sort of stuff, so hitting the queen and opening up the king. So black decided, okay, Yasser takes on e5. And yeah, it looks sensible, doesn't it? Knockout centre pawn. It's protected by the queen and knight, right? What does white play? If I give you 5 seconds here, white play. The engine actually has a bit of a way down, this move actually. I have to say, a bit of a way down. I'm not sure it's actually mentioned. Oh yeah, it is mentioned somewhere. As +2, yeah, it's a +2 move. There's all sorts of moves you could try here. So I'll just. What do you think John Nunn did anyway? 5 seconds. Okay. He played knight c6 check. Looks very powerful and forcing. Queen takes. Bishop takes. Yeah, so he's distracted away from e5. So he's got that dark square grep reinforced. And now it seems as though bishop takes d5 is on the cards, with the idea of taking here with discovered check as an example, and the rook's also hit. So there's no time for this because we just we've got other possibilities as well here after rook g8. So I might as well just show you the game. After knight takes e5, queen takes e5. Now here it looks as though queen f6 taking here is dangerous, but Yasser has his sight on h2 being a problem for white, with the queen more than the bishop. Perhaps playing the bishop was technically better, but he took the d6. He used the d6 square for his queen. Now, if John Nunn had played the sensible looking, he could throw in a couple of checks here to win at f7. But this wouldn't have been so hot, actually. The king could go to c6 here. And we're faced with this h2 problem. No. What does white play here? It doesn't do that. There's something else. Much better. Give you 5 seconds. Starting from now. Okay, rook takes f7. Wow, rook sack. And black resigned. Black resigned. Yasser resigned. Why on earth would he resign here? But if he doesn't accept the rook, then queen takes h8. And we can just take this simply, if nothing else. And if he takes the rook, then check. Now, if the king steps back to e8, then we take on h8 again, and we can simply just take on a8 again. And if king e7, white has queen g7 check. Things are dropping off with check. Quite good fun for white. White can just take the rook simply here, but even stronger is the check first apparently, then taking the rook. So yeah, bit of a nice sequence there, I thought. In this next example, this shows a really fantastically aggressive opening sequence being used by white. John Nunn is playing against Yardbird, the buzzword Eric Lobron, Beal Tournament 1982. So Yardbird is another player I've played a lot of times on the ICC, so I thought I'd show you just for nostalgic reasons. So back in 1982, Bishop d3. This is a very interesting opening, which my friend Paul Georgiou's commented that white is essentially playing a gambit here. He is, because black has knight takes c3, and black now plays knight takes d4. You may have seen this line before. Yes. So there's all sorts of pins going on here. Knight takes, queen takes. So if pawn takes, black would play queen takes a1 and actually be doing well here apparently. Just about The engine is changing its mind actually. Bishop b5, it's still a bit murky. It's still in black's favour a tiny bit. Slight improvement here in this position. White can either castle or play bishop b5 check instead of taking. He plays bishop b5 check. And now we see king e7. And now maybe better is king f8. Let's look at live book actually. It seems very theoretical. Live book gives king f8 3 times, king e7 twice actually. So king e7, this is one of the two games then. White castle, so it's 2 pawns gambit. So a very aggressive opening sequence. That's why I thought I'd show you this. So it's sacrificial in its own right. But it has been seen before in a number of games. Now in this position, apparently white is doing well. White plays queen a4, so he's offering that rook, the exchange sack. King clearly in the centre, looks dangerous. Bishop d6. So with the rook hanging, perhaps simple and strong might actually be apparently rook b1 with the idea of bishop b2. This could be considered here if you have this sort of position. If here we've still got prospects, we defend against that mate threat. Then maybe bishop f4 later. We've got prospects against the black king, but John Nunn goes for the more spectacular. No, it's actually not that spectacular. The rook is protected anyway. That's very logical as well. Bishop f4. That's taken. Queen takes. So 2 pawns down, but great prospects against black's king. Queen c5. a4. The calm before the storm to play a4, keeping the bishop for the moment on that diagonal with rook ac1 to kick the queen soon to get to c7, and then disaster will strike. So Lobron reacts with a forcing move here, g5. Queen drops back, keeping an eye on c7. So rook c1 still on the cards. Rook d8, rook ac1, queen d5. Now the immediate check might be answerable with king f8, the immediate check. John Nunn plays f4. He's opening up all sorts of diagonals and stuff. If takes here, rook takes, we've got pressure now on f7, and this kind of stuff is dangerous. So Lobron tries a6, bishop e2, bishop d7, f takes g, and this f file is very useful actually. So not only getting back pawn, but creating f file dynamic play. Check. And this is horrible here. There's a specific reason why it's so horrible, is that if black plays king e8, what does white play? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, bishop h5. Yeah, so black's best would be to give up the queen there. It's that horrible. So here, Lobron's kind of basically capitulated, giving up his queen in effect with queen d6, because white plays rook takes f7. Yes, it wins the queen. But the story doesn't end there, because hold on, it's a rook here as well. So, but still, the engine likes this for white. It's +3. There's very concrete threats because this pawn has punched at the dark squares. Let's see the game. h5, and these pawns are very dangerous for coming up to the black king. So white now threatening all sorts of things. Check. That's check to the white king. Now the rook's hanging here. Bishop d7. Keeping the pin, so for g6. Unpinning. Queen takes b7. Check. And here Lobron's under great pressure. He can't keep his material here, it seems. There's just too much, there's too many possibilities for white. He plays bishop takes a4, and then after queen b4 he resigns. Check and taking the bishop. Next, Or even worse, if rook e7, actually we can do better than taking the bishop. We can take the rook here, basically, with the check here. So yeah, I thought I'd show that for nostalgic reasons from the opening against Yardbird on the ICC. I know it's basically like showing almost a complete game in its own right. I hope you don't mind the indulgence of this video, the sheer indulgence. I'm quite enjoying it. I don't know about you guys. Maybe take it in parts if we come back to this video. So this next game against John Nunn against Tarek Fatin. Fatin playing white plays king h8. You can see all the pieces huddled on the queen side here. White has a crushing position technically and plays a really crushing incisive move in this position. White to play. What would you play with white here? I'll give you 5 seconds. This is in the Lucerne Olympiad 1982. Lucerne Olympiad. In one of the Olympiads, John Nunn definitely had like a 2700 plus rating performance. Here he plays knight g5, so he's threatening, yes, mate in 1. Black really has limited options. If g6, then I think we just play bishop b2 check, and that's a mate in 5. Yeah, it's not particularly pleasant. So black plays hg. We have queen g6 now, threatening mate in 1 like this. Queen h5. Rook f6 was played. Check. Now rook h6. Check. And here, black really doesn't want to go into a mate in 4 because that's a mate in 4 with bishop g8 check because of this bishop f7 check. I know we can delay things bishop f8, but that's the basic mechanism. So black actually, well, he tried to delay things with this now. Takes, and we still run into that actually. But with a difference, hold on, with a difference. Because in this position, the king has now the g6 square, which he uses. It's still a mate in 3 though, because of queen e8 check. If king f5, g4 check here, either bishop b2, that's queen e5 mate in 2, or queen e6 mate in 1. So yeah, it's pretty dire after queen e8 check. Yeah, king f6, queen e6. Dear oh dear. Master of disaster. Yes. I mean, there's also a lurking bishop b2 if nothing else. Look at black's pieces on the queen side. Just not developed. Spectator pieces, you could call them. Oh dear. This next one. John Nunn against Gennady Zozonko Tilburg tournament 1982. Tilburg is such a famous tournament they created a chess font out of it along with Linares. 2 different classical chess fonts you can use. So here black seems to have a very dangerous position indeed after queen f3. Very dangerous, threatening queen takes g3 check. So John Nunn's reply here is virtually the only move, not just to stay in the game, but stay in the game with advantage. Can you spot it if I give you 5 seconds? Okay, you can either gain 500 points or lose 500 points here. And I really need a faster processor because it really thinks king h2 is equal. No, really, my engine at depth 25, Stockfish, is thinking king h2 is equal here. You lose 500 points with king h2. What a load of rubbish from an engine perspective to think king h2 is equal. It's clearly underestimating the rook on h8 here. Let's show this. If king h2, will it change its tune? Depth 17? Depth 18 it changes its tune. It's plus 10 or more to black. It's finally realised, woken up to the fact this rook is pretty lethal. Or if it's not the rook, it's something else being thrown at white's king. Because knight takes g4 check, so we can't play king g1 because of a check here and mating on h2. We have h5, and if we try and close up things, well, if we take here, then bishop e4 is a mate in 7, mating white in 7. because here rook takes bishop d6. Yeah, mating white basically. And if g5, I think probably this caused the engine some concern, this line with g5. Black still has a forced like crush with h4, and then say check. It's just all over because black's now threatening all sorts of things like bishop d6 and queen g4. No, so John Nunn bypasses all of this stuff. He doesn't play king h2. He plays bishop takes d5, inviting queen takes g3. If queen takes g3, there's now bishop g2, a strength of the last move you could call it, because it's controlling that g2 square. This is good for white. White's now going to play this. He's just cleared up the d file to get to black's king. So yeah, bishop takes d5 was played. Black didn't bother with queen takes g3. Black played this. And now the ball is in white's court to play with black's king. Rook a e1 check. King d8. What does white play here? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, knight c6 check. Yes, opening up the a file among other things. With tempo. So if it takes, we would play. Actually, we wouldn't play. I don't think queen a8 check does anything. Black would be fine after king c7, or even better. No, not queen a8. If it takes, actually queen a5 check, with the idea of queen takes c5, simply getting rid of that queen takes g3. And now black's king has just had it. There's all sorts of things. So king c7 was played in the game, but now the knight just goes to d4, blocking that bishop, extinguishing queen g3. And black resigned here. He's just worse. He's just terribly worse. If the queen moved, for example, rook e8, yeah, white's just clearly better. Let's look at the material situation. White's the exchange up, good blockade on d4. Black's got no attacking prospects, and white will continue the attack with things like knight b5 or b4. Yeah, so an interesting example showing, he's acutely aware of his own king safety as well, and possibilities against his own king, and that helps not to lose games. So next, this one, John Nunn against Jam Sunyanito, which I think Sparth is a fantastic game against. But here, black played bishop b7. What does white play? If I give you 5 seconds. Okay, knight takes e6. It looks like a typical breakthrough kind of sacrifice. Let's see what's happening. Takes. Now queen takes e6 is actually plausible apparently. This is good as well. Bishop takes e4 first. Now taking on e6. And now we've got a light square piece basically. Let's simplify the queen. What is it? It's a light square piece, and this is a dark square piece. And they work together very well here. The attacking player, please note. So e takes d6. Now they work together with bishop d4 check. And that is much stronger what was played, you see, because we could have. We could have. Yes, this is the point. You see, if we had taken here, it's only a small advantage for white. We've lost our coordination prospects. No, it's still actually, pardon me, it's still a large advantage to white. But the game could continue like this, where black's playing on for a few more moves, possibly. It's a rook and pawn ending he's reached. Yeah. No, we keep the light and dark square attack going with bishop d4 check. And now queen f6 check. You see there's a weakness of the last move with queen f7 in that the bishop would be loose. So the king goes to g8. And now it's tempting maybe to play this. This wasn't played. I think it's still okay for white, but even stronger, rook fe1. Because we want the king, when it travels to the e file, to be able to take on e4. So queen b7, check, taking, getting the king on that e file. And now actually, although the queen's protecting the bishop, we can undermine that with queen takes b7. And here black resigned. If takes, check, we take here, this ending is much easier than that rook and pawn ending we saw earlier after g3. White is 3 pawns up, same coloured bishop, much easier than the rook and pawn ending, like approaching plus 4.5 here. So yeah, something black resigned around here. Yeah, it's crushing stuff. Just that technical weakness of the last move. Pounced on, and we saw great coordination of the queen and one of the bishops here on the light and dark squares against black's king. And now, leaving this till last, against another player you might have heard of. Last for this video, I'd like to carry on other years in another video. I just love John Nunn's style of play. But I also love his opponent's style of play. You might have heard of Mikhail Tal. This was in the Weekend Z 1982 tournament. So Mikhail Tal was playing black. This is in John Nunn's classic book, which I recommend to everyone to get, Secrets of Grandmaster Play. It's one of the annotated games in detail. There's only a game fragment here. Tal plays queen d6. Tal had sacrificed the d pawn earlier to get some counterplay, maybe on the c file. And it looks as though, yeah, Tal might have a point here with that c file pressure. If white played a routine move here, like queen takes d6, then this position has some practical difficulties, but technically white's doing well anyway in this position. But a much stronger move actually was played than queen takes d6. Although queen takes d6 is a strong move, simple and strong, much stronger move, probably the best move in the position. What would you play with white here? Nice little tactic. Okay, knight f5 was played. So if bishop takes f5, white is conveniently not only picking up the light square bishop, but protecting c2. We've also got things like bishop d5 then on the cards, looking at f7. And if g6, then queen d5. This is really good for white. If rook c2, we've got the pin on e8. If queen takes here, this is a great position for white. White can continue with all sorts of things, including f5 here. That's a horrendous pin there. You know, if takes, we've got g6. So Mikhail Tal's a bit in trouble here after this move. He can't simply play bishop takes f5. Doesn't look too hot. It's not very good choices for black. Tal plays queen takes d5 here. And now, of course, the knight's hanging. If we play this, then takes. But even here, this is okay. Knight d4. This is okay apparently for white, because there's still dangers on f7. If bishop d7, g6. So even that's okay. The position's so strong. Even that is okay. But the intermediate knight takes e7 check was played, which is the best move. And black is weaker on the dark squares. Now look at these raking bishops. Black takes on e1, and now rook takes c2. Okay, Tal's got his pawn back. Look at the knight. g6 almost looks as though it's really good here. The temptation to play that was resisted. Instead, rook e7 was played. If we play g6, knight f6, this is still good for white. This is a very good position. But I think even stronger, just rook e7, keeping the knight restricted. Knight's absolutely going nowhere. Now we see bishop c6. Yeah, Tal's paralysed really. Bishop takes f7, king f8. Rook c7, creating more paralysis, pinning that bishop to the rook. Hg, and now we see bishop c5 check. Tal is forced to give up the exchange. His position's a wreck. His king safety is torn apart. White is now threatening a mate in one, and black resigned here. He's going to have to shed more material. Say knight d7, well, it's just totally hopeless. White can take here and take here. Just yeah. So yeah, he beat Tal rather spectacularly, and it's a game that really impressed me because it had a fianchetto against the Sicilian with a later g4 and outrageous looking h4, but it all made sense. It really restricted black's pieces. The bishop pair were looking after white, but I really recommend that book, Secrets of Grandmaster Play, and other books I'll recommend. I'll put it in the description of the video. He is one of the best annotators of games ever as well, John Nunn. So lucid annotations for all levels of player to gain insight from. So I hope you got something from this extended video. I think it's amazing the dynamics of chess that are revealed through looking at players' sacrifices, especially John Nunn. And think about it, he's one of the best problem solvers as well. So he can navigate his way through astronomically complex positions more than most people. 3 times problem solving world chess champion as well. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.